Hi everybody, I'm Xiao Song, I'm Sheila. Today I have a very special guest to join me, Kevin Thibodeau. Kevin Thibodeau, right?
Yes, you got it.
Thank you. Kevin is an alpinist, mountain climber, adventurer, and musician. And here he is to share with us his extraordinary stories in the mountains, and above all, the healing nature of the gods in the mountains. Kevin, welcome. So
Thank you.
tell me where you are.
Yeah, so right now I'm in the town of El Chalten in Argentina. It's about a 3-hour plane ride from Buenos Aires, and yeah, I'm here in this cozy house of a friend of mine on this wonderful rainy, windy day.
I know HIDN too well. I've been there 5 times to trek. I'm not a mountain climber. And I love Chiden so much that I started to look for photos in the Instagram, and I came across you there. And the photos from you and your friends really at the peak, all the peaks, was just blow my mind away, because I have lots of photos as well, but really looking up from the base, admiring Fitzroy and all those stories, all those zeros. But yours just awesome. That's why I reached out and asked you to talk to me if you don't mind, and you have kindly agreed.
Of course.
So tell me, Kevin, who are you? What's your story, and what brought you to the mountains?
Okay, well, first of all, adventure is bringing me to the mountains, but where I came before, I've been climbing mountains for maybe about 5 years now. Only 5 years, and before that, I've never really thought about it. I have a past of doing music. I was big into being a musician for about 10 years in Detroit, the city of Detroit, where I'm from. And as far as jobs, I've probably done almost every job, not every job, but I've done many different jobs. And it's always to fuel the passions that I have. So as being a musician, I wasn't a full-time musician. I would also do other jobs to pay the bills and to do what I love and to do what I enjoy. And yeah, when I came here, it was specifically because of a documentary, and so that is the reason why I'm here. I guess the documentary was something that introduced me to the adventure. The documentary is called 180 Degrees South, and it's about somebody who came down to Patagonia and in search for adventure. It wasn't specifically Chalten. And when I saw this video on Netflix, I was, yeah, like I said, I was completely in awe. I think I watched it twice in a row, and and it just really it struck me, and so I kind of rearranged my life overnight to completely focus on climbing mountains. And so ever since then, I've been focused on climbing mountains down here in Chalten because it's so beautiful.
Yeah. So your story is also one of 180-degree south, literally.
Yeah, I never completely thought about that, but it is like that. Yeah, it's definitely like that.
Brilliant. And I like to share one of your climbing videos, may I? Before we go into our stories, yeah? Let's have a look. Right. So where was
Yes.
that? And you were like chewing a carrot as if it was in your back garden.
Yeah, so that was in a peak called Aguja Scenic Superi, and that is the, I think maybe it's the fourth tallest. One, two, it's the fourth tallest Aguja in the Fitzroy Massif, and yeah, I was very fortunate to go with some friends here that were guides. They're mountain guides here, so uh, I spent a lot of time in the pandemia. I spent almost the whole pandemia. I don't know if the pandemic is still going on right now, but the beginning at least, I spent here, and a lot of the guides they obviously weren't working because the parks were completely empty. Nobody was really allowed into the town, so I got a very special opportunity to climb and share the rope with some people who have a lot of experience. So uh, also, um, I had the opportunity to eat carrots in the mountains, which is very awesome. I think that as far as mountaineering standards go, you always want to bring the most calorie dense foods, because you don't want to sorry, the more calorie dense foods that you have, the more calories you can bring with less weight, because really a carrot is kind of just like water. I mean, it has a lot of water in it, right? So it doesn't have a lot of calories, but for me it's kind of like a treat. It's like you're in this place where there's no way any vegetation is growing. You're sometimes 10 hours away, 15 hours away from the closest tree, right? And you're up in the mountains looking at these beautiful views, and eating a crunchy tasty carrot. It really brings up the morale, and it maybe it doesn't physically give you a whole lot of energy, but mentally it's a treat, you know.
I will go into that in big time about the mind, because it's
Yes.
really all about the mind. And you are really playing on the edge. There's no doubt about it. In those, for me, pretty inhuman circumstances and conditions, were to do with the cold, the wind, the gravity, anti-gravity, and the unknown. And is there a place for fear?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. Um, and I think I will start with saying that the the room there's I mean, of course there's room for fear, but not much, because for example, there's a lot of types of climbing. There's maybe like sport climbing, which is you climb up 30 meters, climb down. Of course there's fear there because you could fall. Um, but in the mountains, you can't just come down from the rock and say, okay, I'm done. If you're climbing and you're going up for 10 hours, uh, there's and it starts to get windy or it starts to snow, uh, you're there. And so it's like, if you start to panic, you start to get I don't know, you start to get anxiety. I would say no, there's not so much room for it. It's really like you have to have a very stern conversation with yourself, saying, hey, listen, you're going down or right now. And usually the weather gets bad when you're rappelling, when you're coming down off the mountain, because if the weather starts to get bad here in Chelten, it can get bad very quickly. So you don't continue up the mountain if you are in these kind of conditions. But yeah, no, you start to rappel, and you say to yourself, listen, like, if I'm scared or if I'm not scared, there's really it has no use. There's no use to being anxious. There's no use to being scared. Really, the most important thing is focusing on what you're doing, which is getting down safely. And so, yeah, there's definitely room for fear with there's definitely not a lot of room for fear in that aspect. Going up the mountain, of course, there's some routes that are harder, some routes that are easier. Um, and we have protection. We have things that are called cams, camelots, or in Argentina or in Spanish, we call them friends. This is the protection that we use to go up the mountain. And it's not 100% always that it will catch you. So there's always room to be cautious, I would say. But the fear, I think it can be used as a tool, but it's not the biggest tool in the toolbox for mountaineers.
No, obviously not. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone there. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you just came back from a climb and you were ill. You had fever. You had a virus. How did you overcome that? What fueled you to? I don't know whether it was on the way up or down, or where were you? How did you manage to come back? Being sick.
Yeah, so I went out with oh, I'm sorry, what was that last part?
How did you manage the whole journey being sick?
Yeah, so I must have had something before I left, got something before I left. Me and my friend Dylan, we've climbed together maybe 2 years ago. And it's kind of cool because it's like there's a 12 years difference between me and my climbing partner. I'm 34 and he's 22, and it's awesome because we have, it doesn't matter the age. We have a very good relationship, and he was like very supportive of me when I was feeling like this. So anyways, we have our 9 hour trek from Chalten to a place called Niponino, which is basically a place where we can set our tents. Or we didn't have tents at this time. We just had sleeping bags because there was no rain. So we went out. This camp is basically in the middle of the glacier with a bunch of boulders, like 5-meter boulders. It's kind of just in the middle of all the mountains, right? So we get there. It was awesome. I got up. I felt completely drained. My throat was on fire. All these things. I'm like, what is going on? But also, I made this sacrifice to come out here 9 hours, and the 9 hour trek is not so easy. It's like once you get to Laguna Torre, which is like from Chalten to Laguna Torre, is a very common trail for all kinds of tourists, and it's very beautiful. But then after that, you have to cross the moraine, which is the right side of this of the lake, and there's a lot of debris and things like that. It's hard to walk over because it's unstable, it's dry. Anyways, we wake up and I say, okay, we're here. I don't feel the greatest. And we walked another 2 hours to get to the beginning of the climb. So it's 12 hours to the approach of the climb. And then we climbed up 3 pitches. A pitch is like basically you climb up like 50 meters, and then your partner climbs up, and then you do another 50 meters. And so we did 3 of those, and yeah, and at that point, it started getting to the crux of the climb, which was like the hardest part. This was the part that I was supposed to climb because I have a little more experience than my friends. And I said, no, I don't have enough energy to climb this right now. I was kind of in another dimension. It's like basically there was no reason to feel scared that I'm out in the middle of nowhere feeling sick. But so I kind of changed my mindset to being like, okay, I am here right now. Nothing else matters. So we started rappelling down, yeah, and then walked back another 12 hours to back to Chelten the day after. Uh, Basically, my energy was just drained. I wasn't scared about it, but uh, it was mentally difficult because my body was like weak. So what did I do in that situation? I just focused on one step at a time, and it was kind of sad for me because it was the first time I've gotten sick in the mountains. So I at first I felt like very vulnerable, saying like, like what, why, why don't we just go? Like, what am I doing? Like, I need to be tough, right? But at a certain point, I was like, no, it's not worth it. We're here to have fun. If I'm not having fun right now. So yeah, so that was about 3 weeks ago, I would say, 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Uh, and yeah, I was like, okay, well, what if this is COVID? But then I got the test, the PCR test, and everything came back negative. And so it was maybe just some colds in the mountains, but yeah,
It's
I
very,
would say that there's many. Oh, go ahead.
very moving about your surrendering to yourself, to the body condition, to nature. It's not about, I'm tough, I conquer, it's not that kind of hero story. It's very, very soft, very loving. And I am touched hearing that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, making decisions like this in the mountain, maybe to turn back for certain reasons. It's never like, okay, let's turn back. It's always very slow. Like, okay, I kind of felt like maybe I was going to turn back when we started in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, here it is. And it was a very slow decision. And it's like you kind of go through the mental progress of like grieving of the decision, because I'm like so sad that we have to turn back because of something I have no control over, and then accepting it, and then finally saying, okay, here we go, let's turn back. And yeah,
I love
it happens a lot.
make peace with yourself
Yeah,
above all. And before we carry on, can I share another video?
of
Oh,
course, yes.
I'm speechless watching
Yeah, so that was Cerro Huemul. It's a it's a pretty tall uh, a pretty tall um, mountain. Pardon. It's probably the size of Senex Superi, which is the one that I showed you in the video, but it's not as technical. I did this in the winter, and yeah, there was no ropes involved. I used crampons and I had ice axe, and at the moment I was supposed to go with a friend, and the weather forecast was kind of iffy, so we were kind of wondering, what should we go or should we not? And I said, we're here in this beautiful place. Let's just go for it. And he said, no, I'm staying. So I went alone. Uh, so I went the first day to like the beginning of the climb, and the weather was not so good. It was raining. It was super windy. The next morning, I got up maybe around maybe 6 or 7. No, probably later than that, because it was the middle of the winter. So probably more like 8, and it was still dark. Um, so yeah, the weather still wasn't good, but I was I kind of felt like I saw that it was going to clear up. So I started going, and the clouds were very low. So I started walking. I was going up through the clouds, climbing up on the grade wasn't the grado, the grade of the climb wasn't super severe, but the snow was like ankle to knee deep most of the way up. Yeah, so I started going through the clouds, and maybe about let's see, maybe about a half hour, maybe about an hour before I reached the top, I started noticing that I was started going above the clouds, and it was perfect above the clouds. There was no wind. Starting the climb, I had two jackets on. I had my gloves. When I got to the top, I was wearing a t-shirt and just relaxing. And the view was amazing. It was very cool because I was going up this with not so much visibility, and all of a sudden I get close to the top after several hours, and it it was an amazing view because just the mountains were going above. Sorry, the agujas, the mountains were poking out from the clouds, and what an amazing view of everything.
How I'm sure you have a range of emotions. What did you feel up there alone, entirely alone, man alone at the top of the mountain? What did
You know, I felt, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was the question. How did you feel?
Yeah, I could see that there might be some mixed feelings up there, but when I got to the top, I felt 100% content, relaxed, just in the present moment, enjoying the views, thinking about all the energy that I spent to get to the top, and really, like, there was no fear at that moment, nothing. I was just enjoying my endorphins were pumping really hard through the veins, and it was the reason at that moment that I realized, like, wow, I'm so glad that I came up here alone. It was actually maybe more special to be up there alone because I felt so separated from everything, and sharing the video of the moment was cool because I can share it somewhat with other people. Obviously, the videos never do it justice, but to look out into the ice field on the other side of the mountains, and it was so clear, and to know that you can see, I don't know, like, I'm not really good with kilometers, but many miles, many kilometers away, and it's just straight, and it's just,
Yeah,
it just makes me appreciate how beautiful the mountains are, how beautiful the world is, and how lucky we are to witness these things. Really,
it's really one of those what's the word? Ultimate feeling of content.
the ultimate feeling of content. Yeah,
Peace. It's quite extraordinary. And we had a chat before, and you mentioned that you suffer from anxiety. Is it right?
yeah, yes, I do.
So you say you do. So tell me a little bit about that. Do you mind sharing that experience, because it's so common, and chronic stress, chronic anxiety, which I work a lot with my clients. Can you share
Yeah,
about that?
of course. Yeah, so maybe starting about 2019. No, wait, 2009. That's what it is. 2009, I was like, wait, that's not very long ago. 2009, I was going to college, and back then I was uh, doing anything that made me feel good, which is including a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, things like this. And yeah, one morning I woke up after a big night of partying, and me and my friends were hanging around. We had some weed that we were passing around, and I I was relaxing, and I guess my body didn't like it anymore. So I went to my bedroom. I was like feeling feeling like my heart was very going very, very fast, and it's really the first time I've ever felt like pure anxiety. So I had to go to the hospital, and I got there, and they just said, just relax. Like, they took tests, everything's fine. You just had an anxiety attack. And then the anxiety that I have kind of it started from there. It sprouted from that incident, and ever since I've always had to deal with that. And so there were a lot of years in my life where I would have an anxiety attack every day, um, uh, and just worried about the next one. And how do I fix it? How do I do these things? And I can't live like this anymore. And yeah, so it took a long time, and and this was also with drinking alcohol and still doing things to give me a temporary fix of to get away from the fear of having another anxiety attack. So and then it got to the point where I would I would drink at night to feel okay, and then get up in the morning and feel anxiety because of a hangover, and like have a mental hangover, and then drinking in the morning to get rid of that. And then I realized that I had a very big problem with drinking, because I was in a vicious circle of drinking alcohol enough to the point where if I stopped, it would be bad. So I actually went to the hospital again after this in one moment, because I tried to stop, uh, and yeah, sweating, trembling, all these things, uh, and that was
Fast forward.
oh, sorry.
Okay, fast forward to 5 years ago, you started to climb, and how were you coping with the anxiety climbing at the same time?
Yeah, I feel like let's see here. Yeah, so basically, I stopped drinking after this, which was about 5 years ago, uh, and I decided to find something else that was still something that feels good, something that fills my dopamine. And that's so once I stopped drinking, I started climbing, and basically climbing is kind of like saved my this portion of my life. And so um, doing things like playing music or climbing mountains, I don't have anxiety, and so focusing on these things, and trying to keep a clear mind, uh, really just focusing on something that I love so much helps me. And since then, I can't say that I've never had any more anxiety, but I don't have it that much. I mean, the last time has been months and months and months ago, and so truly, the passion of climbing is like my medication, is my medicine for climbing, or for sorry for
Anxiety.
for the anxiety. Yeah, and it feels good to have that, and I need it. So when I don't climb for a long time, it makes me very anxious.
Absolutely. So, what is it about the mountains that draw you back time and time again? I know it's very addictive. You guys, disappearing to the mountains, frequently. It's not like, oh, a couple of times a year, or it's just like back for a few days and gone again. What is it?
Yeah, well, um, it's a little different here in Chelten because I don't know, maybe if you climb somewhere in the US, specifically if you go to Yosemite or something like this, you have a lot of days of the year where the weather's good. So it's like on top of what I'm about to explain to you, there's also like the itch of waiting for the next weather window. And when it comes, you better go because you don't know when the next good weather window is. So that's one element. Uh, Another reason why I go into the mountains and enjoy is because what is it that keeps me coming back? First of all, it's the adventure. And what I mean by the adventure, to break that down a little bit, is that there is no, there's no, there's no similar experience in the mountain. Every time you go, there's always something that happens wrong. There's always something that happens amazing. There's always a different problem. There's always a different way to solve it. You have different things. You can feel differently. And it's really the adventure of not knowing what exactly is going to happen. Even if you climb the same route, the same mountain, the same route, it can be completely different with the weather, with your feelings, with everything. Uh, so maybe a route has been climbed many times, but if I climb something that I've never climbed before, it's an adventure. I don't know what's going to happen, and uh, and I guess it's that is addicting. Saying, "Wow, I accomplished this," and it's not always about the summit. There's many things that have happened from the bottom and to the top that uh, have have been the reason why the trip has been so memorable. Um, yeah, I think it's very funny for me because no matter how much you prepare, there's always something that goes wrong, and knowing that and like going into the mountains with that feeling, not the feeling, with that preparedness, something will go wrong. Uh,
Yeah.
it makes you more relaxed because it's addicting to figure out how to fix the problems and get past the obstacles.
Yeah. And you were a professional musician, so obviously music, song were your expression, and now up in the mountains and playing with the gods there, that's your new expression. What are you trying to express? Or perhaps you don't try to, but you are expressing something about who you are and about your life, the way you live your life. And what's that expression about?
Yeah, so I think that it's very important to do the things that you feel passionate about, and I think that's kind of an umbrella statement. It's very broad, but yeah, it's kind of funny. When I was thinking about this question for a second, I once did some research about regrets and things like this, and I've done research on like some videos or like maybe an interview of people who are very old on their deathbed or whatever, and what are their regrets?
Yeah.
And their regrets are never, oh, I wish I would have saved more for my what do you call it, my retirement or something like this. No, it's always, I wish I would have done that one trip, or I would have done that one thing. And it's always experiences, and it's never, oh, I wish I would have owned this. And so Yeah, there. When I was younger, I worked for a mortgage company, and I was doing banking and things like this. And maybe around 23 or 24, I decided, no, I'm not going to live this business life. Not saying that it's bad. It's just not for me. I am going to do whatever I can to to do whatever makes me feel good and keeps me healthy. And so music, it gave me so much good feelings. I Music is, like we said, is a big part of my life. I was very focused, and the reason why I loved it so much is because it was something I enjoyed to do. It's something that brought people together and enjoyed a moment in time. So it was positivity all around. And so uh, I think that also with climbing, um, even though I'm not like a professional climber, I'm not like the best climber by any means, but I know that. But I get messages from people, or I talk to people who are my friends, and they say that, like, wow, like what you do is very inspiring, going up into mountains. And uh, it gave me inspiration to do this or to do that. And I never thought that my climbing would be something like that, even if it's on a small scale. But it felt very good to help people feel like they're free to do what they want. They don't have to be stuck in a situation. There are so many people stuck in situations that they don't want to be in, and they say, oh well, there's the unknown again. If they're stuck in something, uh, and it's comfortable, maybe it can be uncomfortable, but it's something that they don't know what's going to happen if they leave a situation. Well, let's leave the situation we don't want to be in. It's better to do that than to be stuck in something forever and say, wow, what happened to the last 15 years of my life? I'm scared of that. That's my fear, is regret. So that's why I'm doing all the things that I love, and I'm not worrying so much about what's going to happen in 3 years. I don't know exactly. I mean, I might still be climbing. I don't have like a career completely set, but I know that I'm enjoying fully what I'm doing right now.
Beautiful. I love it. It's about not having regrets. And I tell you, you are surely inspiring me. And I'm really envious.
Oh, thank you.
You're up there, you're out there in the mountains. Today's New Year's Eve, so that's a privilege to be where you are, to celebrate the last year of 2021.
It's a very, very amazing to be here. And it's very cold, so it's cool because all of the mountains, all the agujas, they're all covered with snow right now. For the last week, they've been completely dry because it's been so hot. But now the snow line is very low, so it's a very beautiful picture out there right now.
The river must be running wild.
Yes, no, it's a lot deeper than last year. It's a lot higher than last year, that's for sure. Yeah.
Can't wait to get out there. So you
Yeah.
quite a lot in your last elaboration, but I would like to know, being where you are, doing what you do, what's your message for humanity? Because you are living quite an extraordinary life. You're not doing a job, for God's sake, and tied up with commitment, mortgage, and all that. So, what's the legacy you'd like to leave to the humanity?
Well, everybody has different circumstances. There are some people that have there are people who have mortgages, who have kids, and that's totally fine. It's a good thing because people have goals. I think that the biggest thing is, if there's something that you want to do, then find a way to do it now, because if you say, oh, I'll do that in 3 years, I'll do that once I retire. And what if you don't retire? What if something happens and you don't get to do those things that you want to do? So what you want to do it now. And yeah, I happen to be a little more free because, well, because I was afraid to committing to some of these things like a mortgage or a family. I feel like I'm focused on climbing, and so yeah, whatever you feel passionate about, make sure you do that every day, or at least think about it every day. And these are the things that cleanse our souls, because if you wake up every day and do something that you don't enjoy, there's what's the reason for living? You really need to do something that makes you happy every day. And it makes me sad, the people that I know, people that are stuck in the same rut, the same groove, and they don't enjoy what they're doing. And I see them talk about it or post something negative on social media every day, and this negativity grows. So I think that the message I would send to people is that you need to treat your mind like a garden. You can't just let everything grow. You need to keep your you need to pull out the weeds. You need to nurture the things that you love. And if you do that, then your life is going to blossom into something beautiful and something that you can really look at the end of your life and smile. Uh, and that's I think that's what I would have to say.
Beautiful, beautiful. And your garden is the vast mountain. What a privilege.
Yeah, no, it's wow. What a beautiful place. That the mountains, I would say the mountains are what feed my garden. The mountains are what feed my garden.
Anything else you want to share? We haven't touched on anything extraordinary, treasured.
Hmm. No, I think that as far as I think I did want to say something about mind over matter. As far as anxiety and things we were talking about, or pushing yourself to the limits. Uh, of course, there are limitations for everybody as far as physicality goes. I mean, I can't I can't climb. I don't know. I couldn't climb 15 mountains all in a row. Everybody has always told me in mountaineering that mountaineering is more of a mind sport than it is a body sport. And I was like, wow, well, I never truly understood it until I started doing some of the bigger climbs here. And really, uh, your body can withstand so much more than you feel it can. Uh, and so being out in the mountains, sometimes you don't have a choice. You have to keep going when your body says, hey, stop. And I think that this can be achieved in other things as well as mountaineering. Once your mind gets set on something, uh, you can overcome these things. So I guess, maybe I shouldn't have said anything on this last part because I don't really have a point. Is what I'm trying to say.
I think that's the whole point. Why I wanted to talk to you. It's about the strength of mind, because I work with so many people who have really severe chronic pain and ailments, including cancer. And I really want to encourage them and inspire them using your story that there's no limit, the power of the mind in healing. And your what you said just shine massive light on that. So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really privileged to have you here, Kevin. Thank you so much. And keep on climbing, keep on living your
Thank you so much. Yeah.
and keep safe. Oh, very, very important. So,
Yes.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in Chalden. very soon.
Yeah, in a month or so, right? 2 months, maybe, month or so. I forgot what you said.
So yeah. So we'll see you there. Maybe
Awesome.
are going to go up there. I'm going to film, I'm going to film you and take photos.
No, I think that no, it's going to be a very beautiful season. So uh, I'm very excited to actually meet you when you come down here.
Absolutely. So I say Happy New Year to everybody and have a brilliant start. This is Xiao Song, and I'll see you next time.